turn of the century.
1904.
Yeah.
You are live.
We are live.
Was that Neil's parents?
Yeah.
Olaf.
Olaf and Neil. Neil, he ended up building his place on the north of that part of the farm. And that person was 1961 or 62. That's rare. That's a lot of.
Yeah, it smells like
And
cheese.
I guess they could see the things
I know.
around.
It was her
Oh, wow. And it's all cedar. Neil's good carpenter. Cedar.
Like kindling. I have a big pile of kindling.
Mike says.
Oh, did you talk to Terry? Well, when they bring this up, I say, if there's any change to the mission.
Welcome, everyone. It's 7 o'clock, so we're going to begin the meeting for the Muscle Rock District School Board at 7 p.m. on 11/17. We are live right now, so let us begin with verification of the quorum. We do have a quorum, and let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. First of all, I want to welcome everybody to the meeting tonight. We're kind of meeting in a little different place. I appreciate everybody's patience and perseverance over the last couple of weeks. So, do I have a motion to approve the agenda for tonight?
Motion to approve.
Hang on a second. We do have an adjustment.
I have one walk-in contract that's with the NFHS agreement that did not get in time to get on the docket, but I do have that like for it to be approved.
That's going on to new business.
Yeah, bring that up.
Also, too, I asked one of the ladies in my office to call and get me on the agenda, and I do not see that I'm on the agenda in place.
Right. So what we generally do is, and what was your name again, sir?
Randall
He's
Sasser.
the mayor of Mossy Rock.
The mayor of, nice to meet you, sir. Pleased. Generally what we do, if we don't have any advance notice of what you're going to be discussing or what anybody's going to be discussing, we set aside a time at the end called Good of the Order and allow you to make an introduction, introduce yourself, tell us what your business is, and then after that, we'll do a formal addition to the next agenda, or if need be, we'll call a special meeting for that too as well. So thank you so very much for coming. It's nice to meet you, sir. Wonderful. Any other walk-in additions to the agenda? Okay, can I have, I'll entertain a motion to approve the modified agenda for tonight.
Also, if you're gonna move executive, you need to do that.
Yes. First of all, we'll do this one. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve the modified agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. One other item on the agenda, one other change is we're going to be moving the executive session in front of new business, between 5 and 6 old business and new business. We have a few things that we need to discuss in executive session before we move into new business. Do I need a motion for that? Can I have a motion to move executive session in front of new business?
Motion to move executive session in front of business.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The motion to approve the change in the agenda is approved. And let's see, now we will move forward with public comment. Do we have anybody who signed up for public comment tonight? This might be an opportunity as well.
Lacey? I have a few questions.
Yes, ma'am.
I came last time asking about the high cap program, and I was just wondering if there's any updates
we got some information on that, some of which we can't discuss in open meeting related to privileged information regarding some of the personnel involved in that. I did get an update on the amount of money that was spent previously to that point, and I believe I can tell you it's around 18,000 and change for that. I don't have an additional agenda with that. What I would suggest is that you reach out to the principal or the superintendent directly. And I'm pretty sure that he has some updates related to that. I know that there is some privileged information regarding those updates, but I'm sure he can kind of bring you up to speed as best he can. So there has been some updates. Thank you.
In the last meeting, we talked about the flag that was donated.
Yes.
By our family.
Mhm.
And I was wondering if there's an update on when that's going to be hung up. And I've heard that it's low priority, but I know there's people willing, like we're willing to get it installed and work with people to install it.
Right. I did hear about that, and my understanding is that there was some discussions regarding that, but it does. We are in a situation. So there's really two pieces to that answer. One is obviously everybody's aware that we've had some priority issues that have come up related to our building and moving personnel and students to different locations. So that's taken a lot of the time from the maintenance staff. However, I do recognize and am honored to receive that flag. And so what I would like to say is there, depending on the weight, I think it weighs somewhere around 300 pounds. So we're going to have to get probably some significant expert advice on how we're going to mount that. If the mount is there, if we can have maintenance staff do that. So I'm giving you my update that I received. If we can't, then we have to hire a contractor. That's my understanding is our procedure. And when we're going to have to put bids out. So if you have someone in mind that has those qualifications, I would suggest that you bring that to the superintendent's attention, because I would like to make sure that generous gift is put as high as we possibly can, given our current situation on the priority list. And so do reach out to the superintendent, and I'm sure he can give you a little better understanding of the issues involved. So, but I am aware of that.
And then the last thing I had regarding the building and shifting classes, my son's in that 6th grade class, is now stuck in the library with 60 kids.
Right.
And he thinks it's going fine, but I just want to what's the long-term plan? Because I know it's just that junior high is not going to get fixed anytime soon. So I feel like putting kids in a library all stuck together is not a conducive learning environment.
I agree 100%. I do agree 100%. I think that that's a very prickly and porcupine-ish question, and we're supposed to be having a forensic engineer do a full study. It was either today or tomorrow or sometime this week to give us an understanding of exactly what our safety concerns are. And scaffolding, or what I call shoring, is supposed to have started today from my last update to reinforce the roof on that gym. So the structural integrity of that building is preserved until we make some kind of determination from the forensic engineer's report on what we're going to do there. I imagine that we'll have an update after we get a written report on that. Our objective is to stabilize the structure, get it cleared, and hopefully reopen those classrooms and those hallways on the outside. That's the short-term objective. I can't tell you what the long-term objective is at this point because we haven't had that written report yet. However, I would like to say this to everybody, and I want everybody to be very attentive about what I'm about to say. We looked at that facility, we toured it, and the board had long discussions about the safety of staff and pupils, and that was the number one priority. Without any engineering expertise, we needed to make sure that staff and our pupils, we erred on the side of safety. Unfortunately, that's created a huge disruption. And I'm understanding that the staff have responded in an amazing fashion in order to make do with the limited facilities that we have. And so as we get those reports in, I'm sure the superintendent will push forward an additional update out to staff and the Mossy Rock community in general. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate everybody's hard work and concern. As a board, our concern has to be and must be the safety of children and staff first. And we'll do whatever we can humanly possible to do to get a short-term, a medium-term, and a long-term plan. So thank you. I very much appreciate it. I appreciate everybody's help.
Yeah, so with the timeline of the libraries, I don't know if I need to reach out to Mark on tomorrow about that, or,
I would,
'cause I know that, like, there's some classrooms that are only, they have 6 or 8 kids in there just for,
right.
like, a reading room or something that could be shifted and.
And that's great feedback.
Yeah.
That's great feedback that staff and the superintendent should be receiving so they can make those real-time adjustments. Did you have a chance to put your name on the list, ma'am?
No, I was kind of tacking onto hers. We are willing to pay for somebody to install the flag as well.
Right.
But I don't know how the procurement and the bidding process would work.
Well, my husband has volunteered
Oh,
to do
okay.
extra training.
Oh,
And he is a contractor, he's licensed, bonded, insured,
okay.
has worked for the school district before, and is currently. And he's offered to do it for free, so we can get it done. So he just needs the materials and.
Okay, sounds good.
We can,
Okay, from.
Oh,
I think that in executive session, we can, with that updated information, I appreciate that. Then we can further have that brief discussion about, how we're going to do this in the least amount of time. And now that you brought that to our attention, I think we can expedite that even a little bit faster. Yes, ma'am. And can you introduce yourself?
I'm Ashley Moore. I'm a teacher. I'm actually sitting at my desk right now. Can I teach at? Will you get one? Yeah, this is my little space that I had to shove in to make sure that it wasn't seen today. And then this is what I get to teach on. And I'm teaching SPED. And I just want to know, I get like the timeline part. Is there an idea of like storage? I have all my stuff in that classroom and I haven't been able to get to it since the day that everything was shut down, and I grabbed what I could. But I mean, this is my IEP I had today, and then I had to rush out of here, so that's not okay. That's not okay. And I'm not sleeping at night knowing that I have this here. And I was knowing that I was gonna take it with me tonight, that's why it's right here, but I had an IEP meeting today. I don't even have a filing cabinet. And that's really bad that I can't do the things that I need to do, so I was just wondering if there's an option for storage, so I can get my stuff out, just so I can teach, because I need manipulatives. I'm trying to do math today, and we're doing boot camp, math boot camp, and I'm trying to get us, get our factors, so we can do fractions, because we're really low, and they need like counters, but I don't have those. And every time I think of something, we did a reward system, and thank goodness Mark, he was on it right away, and he got it for me, but I had to just remember exactly where my Fire Stick was so I could play a movie for 40 kids. And then I have a popcorn maker that I usually use that we offered us that we're going to make as our snack. And I usually do that. And everybody that knows me, I make popcorn. It's what I do. Tammy does it as well. And so I had to rush over to the market and spend my own money to buy a bunch of popcorn so I can hurry up and pop it real quick and put it in bags so we can have popcorn for the kids so nothing's changed. None of the students have noticed really, because we're doing a great job to make sure it hasn't changed, but it's really hard when you don't have your supplies. So some way of getting to our stuff, because it's anxiety driven, not being able to get to the things I need to teach. And my job requires a lot because I'm SPED and I'm teaching 7th and 8th grade with, various levels all over the place. And this is not enough to teach my class. It's not. I need so much more, but we're being accommodated, but I need the stuff in my classroom. But we are being accommodated and I have been supported. I'm not denying that. There's got to be a way to store our stuff, to get it out. Some kind of day plan. I told my coworker, if my husband could come, he'd come on a weekend. I got 4 boys, we'd load everything out of there and I'd get it out as quick as possible. I don't really have a garage right now in this new house, but I'll figure it out. I just need to get my stuff. I've always been like that. 5 years now, almost I've been here. I'm on the fly. I'm good at that. but I just need to get the stuff out. And we've not been given any answers about that. And anytime we ask, we can't.
So I asked, and I don't know who's on the agenda next, I'm just waiting.
I can't teach special education without the supplies I need. I'm not even able to give them their accommodations right now.
Right. And
It's heartbreaking. And I'm still getting those goals up. I just tested a student out today.
Right.
Out of sped. Someone that doesn't happen often. I do that a lot because I'm good at what I do, but because I have the supplies I need. Without those, I can't. Thank you.
I appreciate your comments, and the board, and I think all of the executive staff share your concerns. Again, I want to emphasize that we have a forensic engineer that's going to clear the building. And as the board of executives, our number one priority has to be safety. And we haven't had that building cleared yet. And so I do
still the grade.
I understand. No, and I'm glad that you're so.
I wasn't able to get my computers that I need for IT meetings. They're still in there, tablets in there that I need for testing. I
Right.
can't get to my materials and supplies that's required to do my job by law.
I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you 100%. But I also have to reaffirm that safety is the number one priority. And I'll take the responsibility for that because that's my job, is to make sure that you're safe and that every district employee is safe and that we don't have any issues where we all regret what we didn't do for the rest of our lives. And so that is what I'm up against. And I would suggest that you reach out again personally to the superintendent and reiterate your concerns and your needs. And perhaps we can get some accommodation for you. I'm hoping that this forensic engineer gives us the all clear, at least so we can get in the building and get some stuff out.
I think that's what we've been waiting on. We were told last week that there's gonna be a plan for everybody to come at once. We're still waiting on that. We were told that on, I wanna say Thursday,
Right.
maybe Wednesday, we were gonna come in and the goal was this week, that we'd all be able to go in there and just everybody all at once.
Sure.
And we were told when this first happened, as long as you schedule, you can come to get what you need. So we didn't, when we had that one chance to get in there, we didn't think with that, we thought like you, let's just get the bare minimums, because they're gonna let us come back.
Right.
And,
Well, we were told to
yeah.
get in there.
Right. And I understand that.
And
And
I
part,
get that, yeah. It's just
part-
like, we were also told that we're allowed to come back. We're just waiting for a scheduled date that would be appropriate for everybody to go at once, so it's safer. Get everything that we need real quick to get through at least New Year's.
right. And
It
I,
might seem like a big deal, but if something happens, then it's gonna be
So I have a
catastrophic.
question then. If you're talking about the safety of the students and the staff, which I really appreciate, thank you. Although when the beam had cracked, that was a Monday night and we weren't told to leave until Thursday morning, so that, whatever. I do appreciate it, but however, I know Mark's been in the building a lot, working from the building. So when you're saying staff and students are a high priority, I worry for Mark then, because he's been in there a lot.
what I would suggest is when your turn comes up, you can give us your full remarks and include that as well, because I would like you to repeat that to me and the rest of the board, because I'm interested in what you have to say.
I'm sorry.
You're fine.
Before her.
No, you're fine, and we're gonna make time for everyone. So, is there someone next on the list?
Shannon is next.
Sorry. Please, Ms. Cuddy, can you reiterate that for the board again?
I'm just saying that I appreciate the concern for our safety, and especially the student safety is number one. That is obviously the highest priority for myself as well. I've always told my kids over the years, my number one job isn't teaching, it's to keep you safe from harm of any type, and especially a collapsing building possibly. And so when I hear that, and I'm not sure, but I've seen Mark in there a lot, and I've been told by several people, staff, that that's where he's at. If you want to go find him, he's in the building. I'm like, well, I can't go in there. I'm not allowed to. So I worry about that and why he would be in there working if it's not a safe place, for one. But that's not really why my comments were for tonight. was just, I would like to invite the board to come in to what is our temporary home in the elementary library, which is not as big as this, by the way. And we have more students than Ashley even.
Well, I have Tammy in here too. and
I know, but still, we have
we have like
55
40.
students in our classroom at any given time, plus 5 adults, plus extra kids that are coming in. I am begging you guys, somebody to come in and just see the show that we have going on in here, because it is not a conducive learning environment. The kids are doing amazing. They have adapted. They are positive. They're not complaining. I am for them. I am going to advocate for them and their education, always. And we have not these nice chairs and not these nice tables. We have 8-foot plastic tables that are very thin and skinny. We're bumping our feet in chairs, and we are every day tripping over backpacks and coats and very large bodies. And so it's frustrating to me when I've been told, when I go up the chain, I'm going to my principal where I feel like I need to go first. I'm not going to skip over her and go to Mark. And that Thursday we're going to have a plan. Friday we're going to have a plan. Today we're going to meet at 1 o'clock. I'm going to talk to you after school today. Nothing, nothing, nothing. And I get you're trying to get to safety. I understand that there's an engineer coming in. But 55 students, large body students, 6th graders, in a smaller library than this, with makeshift stuff and a rolling laptop cart to work on, is asinine.
What time can I come in tomorrow?
Anytime.
What's the worst possible time to come in?
Anytime. When we're not at lunch.
Do you have a better idea of what to do? Do you have something in mind?
I do. I
Well,
know
tell
that.
us what you have in mind.
I know that the principals, the 2 principals have been talking, and we've been updated, thank goodness, with Angela, because she's just, I think, as frustrated as us. And we know that this building, even if some engineer stamped it and said, oh, it's good to go, you guys can get back in there. I don't know that parents are gonna be so happy about that, without it being fixed properly first and just shored up. I would hesitate to move my own children in there. I do know that there is solutions of our music teacher going on a rolling cart. I do know that the health and PE teacher is only in one of her portables for 3 periods a day out of 7, I think it is, 7, actually. So there's room. There's also another room off of the gym that used to be used, according to Hadler, right, Haley Hadler, that is a room. There's also a drafting room that is not being utilized. So there are things that I know that they're looking at. We just need to know when, like, I'm with Ashley.
I mean, this is also the ISS room, or sorry, whatever you guys call it out there.
And she has a desk.
Well, kind of, it is only temporary, remember that, I cleaned it up and have to put it away.
We are literally,
But
have
I need a
about
filing
this much
cabinet,
room
that's a lot.
on top of a counter with my
We also have
laptop.
library in here too, and then we have our classes, and it's a lot more than just me and Tammy. We also have high school coming in here daily for library for lunch, and then we also have, that's the ISS, that's all we get now for students in trouble. And then we also have to have kids with memory processing disorders and functioning disorders and ADHD, trying to focus with multiple noises going on at once. I can't teach, I can't get anyone to think straight, nor will let me do my own math straight.
There are
Come here after
options.
you're
There are,
done
they
checking
have,
her out and see
I
how
will
great
do
you're
that.
trying, because it would be a great opportunity for you to see how hard we're working under these circumstances. But these kids, they are struggling to focus.
I'll be
Too
here
much
tomorrow.
noise and too much sensory overload.
Okay.
so,
So
I
have
know
you
that there's
discussed
been
this with
options
Angela,
discussed.
your principal?
absolutely. We talk to her multiple times a day, every day. She's the one who's been advocating for us to get into, and I'm sure Mark can talk to it too, because she's very direct with her conversations that she's had with Doug and Mark and Lori, and what options have been available or are available to us, or feasible anyway. And, I hear one of the teachers is not very receptive possibly to moving. Do I know that? No, I don't know that. But when you're only in there for 3 out of 7 periods a day, and we got 55 6th graders, crammed in a library where now kids can't get books for an entire building. We gotta do something. We gotta do better.
Oh,
And my husband, just like hers, and I'm sure you're, we're all in. My husband will do whatever and anytime we need him to move things or shuffle things around, and we can get stuff done. We're pretty resilient when you give us the time to do it. But we need a direction to go. And we don't want to be in a library for another month, 2 months, when we probably know that the building is almost 100 years old. It needs some help.
And learning isn't just a classroom, it's a space, like when you talk about the kids' safety, I got kids that don't have a safe home to go to. And so my classroom is their safe space, they tell me all the time, it's like a bedroom, where they have Mama Moore come and take care of them, because they have homes that aren't safe. And they don't eat, that's why I keep food, so I can feed them. You can ask how many times I see someone emaciated, you need to come to me and eat. I do it 24/7, that's why my classroom is stocked full of food. That's the first thing I grab is my food, so I can feed the kids. So many of them don't eat, like days like today, late start. I gotta have food so they can eat. I don't have access to any of that. It's not okay that we aren't able to give them this environment that they need to learn, to thrive. And then suddenly we're gonna take them at the end of the year and make them do a state test and then hold them accountable for bad scores. It's just not okay. You need somewhere that gives them a safe space to learn. And there are options, as we're saying. You need a
So
space.
I just wanted the board to know and invite you guys in of what we're doing on a daily basis. I know my principal has come in and she's been very shocked at how well things are running with the very limited items that we had from our classroom. I literally took my laptop card, sanitizing wipes, Kleenex, all those things that I need to know that we got 50 cut 5 kids in one room is lots of germs. So that's what I took, and some pretty pens. That's all I got.
And clipboards and pencils.
No, we didn't. We got somebody bought our pencils.
Oh, that's right, we had a parent donate.
We had a parent donate pencils because we forgot the pencils. So
What time do you want me there tomorrow?
whatever.
Please give me a time so I can, what time? 8:30 it is. And then I will stop by here to look at your situation after that.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Anytime. Like I said, I
Tomorrow?
appreciate it. And you know, the sooner that we know something or something can happen, the better these kids are going to be.
Yeah.
With
Or even just an easy access storage space, we can go and grab our things as needed. It's so heartbreaking, I feel, to go get the things that we need that we know the benefit of. Like Cuddy, I know she's got a library like crazy, and so how are these kids gonna keep up with their AR points without those books that are catered to their level? And so, Cuddy, or Katie starts the classroom with the Harry Potter and they read, and it's just, these kids are losing these things that make them excited to go to school, and it's hard to get enough to get them to wanna go. To get them to actually care to write and to work, it's so hard. They are not motivated at all. And so it's so much work for the teachers to get them to want to care, and that little space, just to be able to get our things that work for them. And I know that's hard, but we have been, like Patty was saying, we've been told I've been told over and over again, we're gonna schedule a day, y'all can go. Well, when? Because I think my computer charger's in my classroom, but I don't know. It died today on the end during an IT meeting. It's so embarrassing.
I know we had hoped that the forensic engineer would be here much sooner, but unfortunately it's a state employee.
Look at that.
I mean, we put emergency orders and everything we could.
We're trying.
We could do.
I'm not saying that you're not. I just would like a more permanent spot for us to be housed.
We kind of thought that would be good. We didn't know it was gonna take this long just to get an engineer in there.
Well,
We hear you.
We knew it was gonna not be fun.
Yeah. And again, I want to say the whole board appreciates all the effort that you're putting into this. And we're doing as much as we possibly can to try to get this schedule. We're going to further this discussion in the executive session and try to get some idea of a date so we can get you in there to get some more stuff. I mean, and
I would sign a waiver so I can go get things.
Yeah, right.
I understand that. I wish it was that simple. But we're going to make progress, and we're going to have this conversation here in a few minutes. So, is there anybody else on the list?
Richie, did you have anything you want to speak about?
Not particularly,
Okay.
I'm just here to listen.
Then just Mayor Sasser.
Sir?
I'll make this quick. I'm Randall Sasser, Mayor of Busrock.
Yes, sir.
Read in the paper a couple weeks ago that there was a plan to reroute the buses, or it was phase 4. I'm in agreement that there has to be something done. I didn't know if there was a time frame that the school was looking at doing that phase 4 of that project. If there was, then I would have a better idea how long I need to get, because it doesn't go in the way it was wrote up in the paper was that the road was going to run into West State Street. That's incorrect. It actually runs into West Main. Then West Main ties in with West State. So that whole intersection right there needs to be addressed. And if I know a time frame, we as a city can go ahead and move forward and do that, because that's always been heartburn for the city, how that intersection is currently. So from a positive side, we can see where this is going to be beneficial to the city plus the school district. Just need to have an idea and keep us in the loop. That's all I'm asking. So
We did have that discussion, and we had a diagram that was explained to us with 1, 2, 3, and then the 4th stage. We did take a vote on that to move forward in the planning stages for stage number 1. And so once I get some updated information, I'll have the superintendent reach out to you, and we'd like to bring you in on the whole planning process. We have another issue on Hazel Street as well that I think you're aware of. And so if we need to, we can have a workshop or a special meeting and then invite you in and then get you some updates, because the board, I'm positive, wants to work hand in glove with the city so we can complement each other as we move forward, because we depend on the community for support.
and that's the whole idea by myself coming tonight,
Absolutely.
is so that way I get it out there that we need to be together.
Absolutely. We all agree 100%. And
As far as I
so,
know, there's gonna be no bus traffic down Main too. It's all gonna be right at the end, right?
but we're a ways out from
Yeah,
that.
okay.
You know, we're just beginning the planning process. And again, I appreciate you coming tonight, and it was wonderful to meet you. And we'll be reaching out through the superintendent to bring you into the full planning process, and we'll have a series of meetings going forward. So
That'd be great.
thank you so very much for coming, and I appreciate the update
So
from the
with
city.
that, I'm going to go ahead and leave.
Okay, sir. Have a nice evening.
Sounds like you guys have a lot of fun tonight. We'll see you later. Yeah, I'll see you in a couple of days. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? No. Okay, then I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda unless there's any discussion by the board on any individual issue.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The consent agenda has been unanimously approved. Now we will take a look at our reports. I don't see a report from the elementary principal. Am I missing something, Mr. Superintendent?
No, no report from the elementary tonight.
I was hoping to see something from the elementary principal tonight. You might mention going forward that we'd like to see something every month so we can take a look at any concerns that come to the board level. We have a secondary report from the high school principal. Has the board got a chance to read that report? Perfect. Does the board have any questions on the high school principal's report? Any discussion? Okay. Moving forward, the athletic director's report. Has everybody had a chance, board members had a chance to read that? Okay. Is there any questions or discussion on that? Okay. I've read it myself. The superintendent's report. Dr. Chandler, would you like to bring us up to speed?
think on some of these issues, I've already given you guys an update, but just for a second. Enrollment numbers up there, 598. We've been hovering in the 590s all this year, which is down a little bit from the past 2 years. So enrollment is down just a little bit at that 598 marker. We probably were averaging about 605 for the past 4 or 5 years, if you took it as an average, but a little down this year. Chad, you have a question?
Just, I've asked this before, but refresh my memory, we budgeted for 588.
595, 590, 590.
590, right? Yeah.
Like I said, I think I've given most of this to you guys. The canopy repair is underway. That exterior wall behind the band room. There was a significant roof leak on the south wing of the elementary. I think I updated you on that. I think there were a few sheets of decking that were found to be rotted, and concerned that there's more. The roofing is not installed correctly, and it's retaining water under there, but we think we have it patched enough to get through the winter, but probably a significant roofing project next summer to re-roof that elementary building, or at least that far in of it. Let me see. The continuity of operations for the junior high school, which has had a lot of discussion in here tonight. We've met at least, I don't know, seems like we did meet today, we did meet Friday. I can't remember the days we met before that. It's been a rapid and fluid thing. There are options that we are looking at. We have not pulled the trigger on any of those options. Again, with the hiccup being, we really would like to know where the forensic engineer is going to, what he's going to say. It's safe, it's not safe. Are we looking at something to get us through the Christmas break, or are we looking at something that we're out of there? So a lot of discussion there. We have sought out and found some options. Ms. Cuddy had addressed several of them that we have discussed, and we'll have to prepare. They will all take a little bit of leverage and work, but there are options if we are not looking at something that's going to be shorter than we had hoped for, at least to understand. But again, we are still in the analysis phase. Today, they did put floor covering down, and we got the lift into the gym through a ramp, and so that there will begin construction on the scaffolding on Thursday is what it tells us. But they were on site today working, so some initial pieces have been done. It seems that he is not going to come inspect until those scaffoldings are in place. He has not given us a hard date. He's not given us any date. He's just saying, I will come and inspect and scaffolding up. So it's been hard to nail him into a corner. We first thought he was going to come right away, as we discussed a little bit ago, but we've not been able to get him nailed down to a specific day. So it's our belief today that he's waiting on that scaffolding to be put in place before he comes in. So that work is underway. I don't know exactly how long it will take. I'm estimating a week of solid work, but I'm not 100% sure on that. They also have not given us a hard date as of yet, but they are on site and working. We have applied for emergency funding through OSPI and working with Scott Black up there, and he's made several contacts with us. Feels good about us getting some emergency funding. I don't know the amount of that. I asked for $400,000 through one of the funding sources that he is talking to us about. We also, as I shared with you guys, I'll share out loud, have spoken to the risk management folks who say unless there's an actual collapse, there's not really much they're going to do. That's the way the policy is written, but we can, get reimbursed if we file a claim. The first thing they'll want to do is hire an engineer, which we've already done, and they'll reimburse that $25K. And then they'll also cover up to $50,000 of the scaffolding that we're doing to protect assets. But they won't do anything beyond that in terms unless it collapses, is what they're telling us. Okay, let's see. It's already been mentioned by other folks. I think staff and student body to be commended on the manner, speed, and flexibility in which they have demonstrated in making this whole adjustment. And it's been quite a challenge. What these folks explained as being challenges they're facing, absolutely correct, and they have done a good job of responding to those challenges. And we have Ms. Blankenship for a report as requested by the board. Questions about other aspects of that before we move on?
Yes. Couple of questions. The first one is, could you please clarify who we is? When you said we have met about these different things, who is the we?
The administrators, Jody's been in with us, and as well as district staff, district level staff, and the principals, transportation, food service, business office, and grounds and maintenance.
So all those people are in the room openly brainstorming ideas and
Yes.
solutions and the pros and cons of each particular solution and things like that.
Yes.
Roughly how many people is that?
5, 6.
And then just one additional separate question. You discussed the elementary roof with that's issues, but is that already been budgeted for next spring, or is that like a
No, that's
heads
something
up
came
next
up
year?
in
There's
this
another
past week.
major.
That's something that we had a leak a couple of weeks ago that was reported. Then they have been investigating and discovered where it was coming from and worked on it. And within the past 5-6 days, that piece has come to light.
But that's not been part of a discussion
No.
in the past of like, hey, this is coming up
No.
due for replacement. So that's another very major expense, I would imagine.
Correct.
That's likely.
Any other discussion on the superintendent's report? So I think we all agree that we have a slow rolling train wreck as far as the school's concerned from one end to the other. I also think we can all pretty much agree that our community doesn't have the funds that we know of to successfully pass a bond for new construction. This puts us in a significantly difficult position. However, that doesn't mean we don't have options. One of the options is I know a lot of lobbyists, influential lobbyists in Washington, D.C., who I reached out to this last week, and including Tom Cole, the head of the House Appropriations Committee. And I was advised through the lobbyist that we need to begin to reach out to our representatives to do secure rural schools assessment and project submissions for the appropriation process moving forward. So that's going to be in 2016, April roughly is the deadline. And so we will be discussing that with the superintendent moving forward in order to reach out to some of our legislators, including some of their representatives in this area, to let them know what our situation is. And so we can get some of our representatives and senators to get us on the House Appropriations and Senate Appropriations process. There's been at least 9 projects that have been funded through that process in Lewis County this calendar year. And so there's a successful pipeline that is already moving funds from Washington, D.C. to Lewis County. We just have to get ourselves in the pipeline. And we're doing that. We're going to be doing that because this is not going to get better. It's just going to get worse. And if we don't get out ahead of it, then we're going to continue to have these problems moving forward. So there is progress moving forward in the planning stages. It may not seem like it, but it is moving forward. It's going to take some time. And so the last thing I want to say of this area here is I think the board, and we'll discuss this in the executive session, the board is going to reemphasize the needs and the potential options that have been identified here tonight to maybe add some expediency to that process moving forward, because obviously the other side of the house is the state inspector, and that doesn't seem to be moving in a timely manner. And so we have to do something. I mean, it's obvious. So we're going to have that conversation moving forward. I appreciate the information that you've given us tonight. So is there any discussion on the superintendent's report? Okay. Question, would we like, yes, I was going to say, we'd like to hear your report so we can get you out of here while we go into some deliberations. And thank you so very much for coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just to give you guys kind of an update there, on the first page, you'll see just kind of some current statistics on our co-op. Okay, sorry. We budgeted 3.1 million this year for the co-op. We are currently tracking to come in somewhere around 2.8 is what we're anticipating. So I've been making some strategic decisions when we've been staffing and fulfilling roles to think outside of the box about who we're hiring and what we're using them for, and leveraging our human resources the best way we can to both move forward the compliance and services that we're providing, as well as making my time and my assistant director's time more available to be on the ground in the school buildings and things like that. So we've had some great momentum there, and recently brought on a new hire who I think is a great asset to have. And she fills in a lot of gaps that we had with her experience and background knowledge, and has hit the ground running. So I've been really thankful for that. As of our November 1 billing, we're running about $5,800 per student currently. It fluctuates a little bit as we go through the year, and of course it always comes out at the end based on how many kids we actually end up serving. So that's where we're at. Currently, Mossy Rocks count's sitting at 103 students to be served. And then we're serving 454 in the co-op as a whole. Any questions on that front page? There's a little more detail on the pages to come, so it might be helpful. Next page is just a 5-year perspective of your enrollment and your special ed enrollment. You can see you're holding pretty steady. I noticed a kind of a anomaly in the 23-24 school year there, where it was pretty consistent around 120 students a year. Definitely different than the years around it, so I just made note of that. And then the third page in the packet just kind of breaks out where students are at by grade level. So you'll see enrollment, so the number of students in each grade, and then how many of those are in special education on the next page to just kind of give you an idea of where some of our bubbles are coming in at, and what we're seeing for trends. We're going to be analyzing that a little bit further in the next month or so to come. We've got the state calls disproportionality data, where we have an over-identification of students who are Hispanic under the category of specific learning disability, which will tie in. Mark and I have had some preliminary conversations about where his plans go for teaching and learning, and it'll intersect nicely with what we'll need to do for work there around that. And so we'll be disaggregating that data a little bit further in the months to come here. The following page, and I'm realizing now I should have put page numbers on this, so I do apologize. You'll see the pie chart, which is all of your students broken out by their disability category. You'll notice there that the largest category at 42% is that specific learning disability. Specific learning disability is sort of an overflow catch-all for students who don't necessarily have a diagnosed disability, but it captures students who learn atypically. So maybe they have a visual processing strength rather than a verbal processing strength. We'll often see students who potentially have had some lack of instruction or some high mobility. Definitely socioeconomic status factors kind of play into this category. And we're doing a lot of work refining systems right now to improve our referral process so we can start better sifting that out through data to eliminate that as a factor.
because the last thing we want to do is tell someone they are disabled because they haven't been given opportunities in life. So that and the other category of that's kind of this peachy color, the 17%, that's other health impairment. Other health impairment often, the most often, other health impairment is where you have a diagnosis that doesn't fit in one of the other categories, like autism or deaf or blindness. And most often it is ADHD. And so when we think about our students who are diagnosed with ADHD, their short attention spans, distractibility, things like that, as well as the impacts that can have on their short-term memory and their recall of information, we're often looking at very similar learning profiles between other health impairment and specific learning disability. And so when you put those two together, you're looking at 59% of your students in special education that typically have an average cognitive ability. They just have a different learning profile. And so thinking about how we can accommodate that in Tier 1, which is your core classroom instruction, is always my first thought with that. So that's a little bit of my soapbox, but just a little bit of perspective for you. In the district, we have 14% of our students that have speech-only services. So when you look at this next page, you'll see your occupational therapist has 32 students currently on her caseload. That's just over a full-time caseload. Our speech, she's serving 44 students currently. There are some very significant needs when it comes to speech impairments in this district. And so that that is not quite a full caseload, it's just under, but her workload is definitely more than a full-time caseload. And so we've made some adjustments for her in that so that she can be available and applying necessary time to students who have more specific needs, more intensive needs, I should say. We have our physical therapist for the co-op. She serves 4 students in Mossy Rock currently. And there are 89 students that are receiving either academic or just social services in addition to those. And those are split out among your classroom teachers for caseload management. Other services that the co-op provides that aren't being utilized necessarily in Mossy Rock at this time. We have a teacher of the deaf. We provide a teacher of the visually impaired and an orientation and mobility specialist. We have Braille transcriptionist who's on staff. We have a language coach who's under contract. So a language coach works with students who are deaf, hard of hearing, and teaches them about deaf culture. She can work with them on their ASL. There's a lot of additional services she can do, including parent support for that deaf culture. And she formerly lived in the area, and so she's personally herself a deaf person and was the child of 2 deaf persons. And so she's very familiar with the local culture and communities to connect with. And so she's been a great resource to have for our families that need that. And surprisingly, we've had several students that are deaf and hard of hearing move in this year that we were not anticipating to be here. So it's kind of another one of those anomalies. We also have an ASL interpreter that's on contract for one of our students in another district. And so there's just a variety of services that we are sourcing, if you will, and helping get connected to the students in the districts that need those supports. So the next page will give you just another perspective of what is the Lewis County Co-op. In the background is a visual that I created for the superintendents a few weeks ago to kind of put things in perspective for them as well. For our staffing, there's myself and an assistant director. We have 2 additional office secretaries, the 4 3/4 school psychologist. We have 7 speech therapists and 4.5 occupational therapists, and then the 1 physical therapist who serves all 5 districts. And then across the districts, we're supporting 5 and 5 superintendents, 11 buildings and building administrators, 22 of my providers, 19 of your teachers, and 454 students with the 4 of us in the office. So it's a busy day, most days. There's been some question about how the billing functions through our co-op and why bills maybe fluctuate a little bit from month to month. and this being separate than any contracts for specific students. So the way we work, previously the ESD was an agency, they were their own business. We are not that. And so ADNA and Napavine fund our expenses and payroll. And so how this works is each month, all of the staffing costs and our MSOCs and anything we've had to purchase, that sort of thing, are all added up. And then we take what we call proportionate share approach. And so we will take all of the students who we serve as of the November 1 count. That will be the count we use going forward. And then it's calculated out. So you can see there, if we're serving 454 students, Mossy Rock has approximately 23% of those students here in the district. So approximately 23% of our costs come and are billed then to Mossy Rock. And so it's just a breaking out of those even expenses to kind of help spread the cost. And then down below, you'll see when, and these two boxes are taken directly from a spreadsheet that's given to billing and to the superintendents. But there's payments that are due to ADNA and payments that are due to Napavine. And that's because they each take a portion of our accounts payable and pay those. And so ADNA pays for my salary and my office staff salary, as well as most of our MSOCs. And then Napavine pays for my assistant director, and they cover all of the contracts and direct hires for our service providers. And that, we're running the numbers after last year, that was just kind of about the middle point of what they could both kind of float through their systems. And that's where we've been. And so depending on what our purchases may need to be for a month, if we're having to purchase testing supplies or if we're having to purchase restock manipulatives, whatever it may be, that may be some of the fluctuation you see. There's also times where we'll get the invoice through from like WSIPSI or IEP Online for services, things like that. And so those invoices tend to come through, and then that'll be a little bubble in the costs for that month. But we've noticed kind of on the next page there, and just you can read through some of the things that are going really well. Is one is that the costs are stabilizing much more than they were last year. We've gotten our staffing figured out. We've gotten supplies in that we need, having those things, and that we've gotten great reports this year for how quickly services started. They never had services start this early, is what some of our districts are saying. We started a new life skills and transition program out in ADNA this year that are off and going. They are new. It's a new program. Winlock also has their life skills program at the elementary level, and ADNA has theirs at the high school level. And those are kind of serving as 2 points where as a co-op, we can work together to provide a robust program for students that need that without everybody having to try and create their own. And so first year, but so far so good. And I'm really hopeful for where we're scaling up. We're having some conversation about where we're going to go in the spring with some of those services, especially around the transition services for kids. And so it's been great. And then again, just we hired a few more in-person providers as we're finding people. We had a gal who moved up here from Central Oregon. We found our PT who was living here locally and left the medical field and came into the school-based, and she's outstanding. Very thankful to have her. We actually have a functioning IEP system. I would say, I think it was exactly 1 year ago this week that we finally got a system that uploaded our kids into it for the first time. Kind of hard to think about, right? And so having a functioning system has been amazing to have for the whole year. Part of that success is our November 1 count. My goal has always been to get that count done within 4 days, and we actually hit it this month. And a large part of that was having our new office secretary, Hillary, in there. She's, again, very knowledgeable on the back end side of things and has been a great asset for me to help get things done. And so I appreciate her support. We have some really cool things going. We have, we're working with Thorbex to develop an aquatics adaptive PE for some of our students. That's been formed through relationship and partnership, where we'll be able to transport our students over there, and our PT will come and deliver their physical therapy in the pool, which really just opens a whole lot of doors for some of our wheelchair-bound individuals in particular. And so I'm just I'm very proud of Bree for getting that going. She's made the connection and the relationship. She's our PT. And so I'll be meeting with the director at Thorbex to kind of finalize some of that work. And then I'm inviting Shahilas to come along with me because we work closely together, and so that they can take advantage of that partnership as well. And I'm just really excited to bring that on. Other than that, you see a big thing that we're working on this year is integration of intervention services. So we're working on slowing down the referral process and really leaning into the laws and what they say about timelines, so that we are not over-identifying kids, that we're using our interventions. And my providers and my staff, they're leaning in to help fill in some of those gaps. So our psychologists and our OTs and our speech providers are coming in and thinking collaboratively about what interventions could be beneficial for kids, so that we can try out interventions before we're going straight to referral, which is really helpful. And then I'll say in one of our districts right now, we have, to that tune of intervention, we have 90% of the elementary students in that district are qualified for occupational therapy. And so our occupational therapist has started an intervention center in kindergarten. And so when they go and do their rotation of interventions, she's in there providing services to the kindergartners to help us get ahead of that. And we have a few things similar with speech that are happening that I'm really excited about in some other districts. So it's very cool. Yeah, just been out in districts more often this year so far, which has been great. And then we've been able to do trainings each month for staff. So we've got office hours and then monthly trainings that happen every last Tuesday of the month. And so those have been great. And then our big focus this year is really on teaming as well. So as we're building out interventions and using data to inform us, there's a need to help everyone understand teaming and their role as working on it as a part of a team to service students, and just making sure that we understand what that role and structure is. And so that's just some of the work that we're leaning into this year that we didn't really expect, but we're seeing a great need for it. So any questions? I know it's a lot of information.
Yes.
Yes, go for it.
Go ahead.
All right. I'm gonna ask you to bear with me.
Yeah, no, go right ahead.
This is very much I work with a lot of kids that were involved in special education, but never understood the school side. So bear with some of these questions. So the first one is, so it looks like about 17% of the students at Mossy Rock are special education.
Correct.
Would I be correct in assuming that that is extremely disproportionately high, considering that that's 39% more than Adna, who is much larger than Mossy Rock, and 89% more than Wolf? Am I processing that correctly? That we must be drastically higher.
You are a bit higher, yes. I think Morton is sitting at about 13%. The state previous to this year was funding us at about 15%, was it? 13? Yeah, I think it was 15%. They removed that cap. So we had been over that cap and had unfunded kids for a while now, but we will be adjusting that. Not now. What that means is they'll pay us for all the kids that we have on count, but then there's still those kids that have higher needs than what we get funded for. So there are some shifts in that. But yes, 17%. However, I will celebrate that it is down from, I think we were ranging around 22 pre-COVID, I think, and so we are down quite a bit.
16.8% in 2021, 17.7 in 22-23. So at least since then, it seems like it's hovering right around that 17 mark.
Yeah.
And actually, just looking through this 1, 2, 3, so for 5 years, it's been almost exactly 17.
Yeah.
Give or take 0.5%.
Yeah.
Year before last, it was 21%.
My second question is just wrapping my head around I gotta look at what you said there, because I wrote down the specific learning disabilities.
Yes.
So you mentioned kind of a whole bunch of different categories that could fit into that.
Yeah.
And some of those are static, like some of these are not going to change.
Correct.
And some of them, it sounds like with instruction, perhaps, I think what was mentioned was, you talk about people who had a gap in education previously. Some of those things are things that can be remediated. How often do people who are in special education become no longer considered in special education, or what does that process look like?
So the process, once you're eligible, we go through it every 3 years. You have to requalify. You have to do a reevaluation to see if you're still eligible for special education services. Occasionally, there will be students who transition out. Unfortunately, with specific learning disability, that category in particular are the kids who kind of find themselves in a cycle of resource room classes. And so they get moved into resource room classes, usually around 3rd, 4th grade, right in there. And they start staying in those classes. And then as they move into middle school and high school, that equates to being pulled out of the core instruction, receiving a supplanted instruction. They don't ever access core instruction. They're never in there with their gen ed peers, because the way it works when you have schedules, they're out here and they've got to take these other classes to be able to get their service minutes. And so then they're missing out on elective opportunities, those enrichment opportunities and things like that, because they're stuck in these remedial classes that they have to keep taking. They also kind of end up on a path of like, they were frequently on the alternate path for graduation. So they were taking off grade level tests. They were taking the ASVAB and different things like that instead of passing the state standards. And so we've been trying to move and shift the needle on that. But that is typically kind of what you see. And so they don't often exit special education there. There has been some cases where Ms. Moore shared that she tested somebody out today. And it's true, when you can get really effective instruction in a resource classroom that mirrors the high quality instruction and those best practices that we see in gen ed, but then you tailor the content down or the pacing down to match the student's needs, you can see vast improvement in students with specific learning disabilities, and they can exit services. Typically around 9th, 10th grade, you'll start to see them exit when they've had that instruction that helps fill in those holes.
The last question, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this concept that's in my head. To what rate are people who began special education earlier in their educational career, 3rd, 4th grade, are people exiting as fast as students later on in their educational product, their journey, are being identified as special education and being put in? Like, is the number typically higher? I mean, I'm assuming that they don't offset more and more kids get put in special education, while less and less are finding their way out of it.
So what you typically see when you're looking at students who are younger and qualified for special education, they kind of come into two kind of pots, I'll say. And one is students who are served in their birth to 3 services. So they have a family plan that's serving them. They usually have very complex disabilities that we're facing, and those are not disabilities that typically phase out as much as we get older. Then you have kind of these developmental delays in the latter preschool years. So we often will see speech referrals, maybe some OT referrals. Actually, we're seeing a lot of OT referrals post-COVID with just the way kids have changed their engagement in the world. But they will be things where it's kind of a lack of exposure. So the kids haven't been in language-rich environments. We're in a childcare desert out here is what we call it in the state. Where there's not a lot of those early learning opportunities and rich structured environments for kids to experience language and practice language. And so that impacts social skills development. They're just general receptive and expressive language. And it can also, what happens instead is they often spend a lot of time in front of TVs and tablets. And so you notice that with their fine motor skills and things in terms of what they come to kindergarten ready to be able to do in terms of just manipulation of things with their hands. And those students often will be placed on an IEP and can often work their way through and out. And so you'll see them coming out in 2nd, 3rd grade a little bit more. And then there's this different wave of kids who roll in, and they may still be developmentally delayed, where their cognitive ability and their academic performance just aren't aligning, but we don't really have a diagnosed disability. We don't know why. And often what you can kind of see in there is a disparity in the opportunities that the kids have in preschool, kindergarten, 1st grade, in terms of the gen ed teacher who's in front of them, or what their outside of school activities are. So if they're not really involved in any other like soccer or t-ball or baseball or any of those type of interactive activities with kids, and if they aren't in a childcare setting, then you'll see those kids will often roll into that specific learning disability category where we don't have a diagnosis to hang it on, but there's a disagreement between what they're cognitively able to do and where they're actually performing. And the reason that happens close to 3rd grade is because you have to transition off of the developmental delay category by your 10th birthday.
Any additional questions? I do have one. The last time we talked about updating the IEPs and how that was it was kind of problematic.
Yes.
You mentioned having a new software and some office staff that were making progress on that. Can you tell me what your percentage of IEPs are updated currently?
Tell me, when you mean updated, like current?
Current.
Locked? Yes, so we are current.
100%.
I think we have less than 10 that were not count for the whole month of November. And that's a variety of reasons. So from time to time, you will have some situations where there's not. So it can be someone's moved in. We've had a few that have moved in with expired IEPs and we don't have them renewed by the first day of the month. That would cause that student to be off count. That was the case with a couple of kiddos here. And so, but overall, I think we have less than 10 kids off of count for the entire month of November. And so, sorry, for the entire co-op. We had 3 off here and 2 of them were moved-in transfers that weren't.
So that's pretty drastic improvement.
Huge improvement. And you had asked me in the springtime and I didn't have the number, but I went back to my office and it was like 40 files or something that were left for the entire year. And so we had everything cleaned up by the end of June. So Christine in my office, my secretary, she reads every single IEP that comes in, and every teacher gets feedback on their IEP. Even if it's great job, you don't need to make any corrections. But it's basically a coaching cycle. She's working continually on every file with every teacher to improve the quality of the IEP and to think about best practices and things like that. And then this year we implemented for our school psychologists and our speech pathologists a peer review process for them as well, where I have a school psychologist who reviews every evaluation that comes in. And the purpose of that being to make sure that our evals are compliant, that we're using appropriate metrics, that our reports are being written with sufficient detail and data in them, that they are transferable beyond just our agency. And then we're adding in the consistency and the structure of where we put the information in the report so that the system, the IEP system that we use, it allows for the information to be forwarded properly as it should through the years that the IEP is attached to that eval. And then just so there's a level of consistency and quality when our students transfer somewhere else and somebody gets our reports.
Any other questions? I want to commend you for the level of improvement that you're showing us. 2 big measures, the cost stabilization and increasing integration of services, as well as improvement in coordination and communication, and also clearing up that backlog of IEPs. I think that's a great deal of improvement. So thanks very much for that. I think you guys are doing a much better job. I mean, all of us have improvements that we can cite in our practices, but I think that you're headed in the right direction. So thank you very much for coming tonight and providing us with an update. It's very encouraging to see that. And so a bright note for this evening. And so at this point in time, unless there's any other questions from the board, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session for 30 minutes to discuss a couple items, including our conflict of interest recusal agreement and confidentiality agreement, and a couple other personnel related issues. Do I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn to executive session for 30 minutes.
And it's currently 13 minutes after. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We'll be moving into executive session until 43 minutes after. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming tonight. I appreciate it very much.
We got the meeting.